Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today, friends, we have another exciting guest on our podcast. His name is John Parker, and he is with the Peace and Freedom Party, and he's running for office. He's going to tell us about what office in particular he's running for in a moment. So welcome to the podcast, John.
Hi. Thanks for having me over here. It's always nice to be talking to folks who are concerned with humanity. So glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. If you could please start by telling us what party you represent. I'm sorry, what race you're running for.
Okay. This is for the California 37th District, Congressional District.
Okay.
I ran for Senate before. This would be a different race. It's just four candidates, three other candidates.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay, interesting. So, before we talk more about your race in particular, could you please give us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch?
Well, let's see. I started getting political at 13.
Wow.
I had a neighbor who was actually a socialist and
oh wow,
communist, and he was a history teacher in my high school, and Rob Moyer, and he'd have a conversation with me, and he got me involved with the Farm Workers Union. So
okay.
I used to go and do the pickets, and I had a hard time taking grapes after a while because there was such a big boycott that I finally was able to take grapes now. But did that, and when I was in my 20s, I organized a union typesetting at a small typesetting shop in New York. Then been a lot of political actions that that pushed socialism, pushed getting the means of production, and then I joined up with the International Action Center, and after that, another organization, the Socialist Unity Party, that I'm in right now. Got to find and expose imperialism. That's one of the main things they wanted to do, is expose imperialism and its attack against the working class, the international working class. And I was able to do that with Ramsey Clark, the former U.S. Attorney General.
Wow.
And after Clinton bombed Sudan, the pharmaceutical plant there, we went there and exposed the lies for their excuses, saying that there was a VX nerve plant, and it was a plant that provided important basic medicine for Africa, and malaria, and other medicines and things, and it was a well-known thing, and they did that anyway. So, and then went to Gaza in 2009.
Wow.
Syria, when they were attacking, when Obama was threatening Syria, we wanted to go to get another side. When U.S. started that coup in 2014 in Ukraine, and then when the 100,000 troops were getting ready to go into the Donbass region and start a massacre, we wanted to go there and get their side as well. So it's been interesting. And right now, we're talking about the issues right here, and how the money and the jobs, healthcare, and poverty is just the funds that they take for the military. It just goes right into the pockets of the defense industry and the banks.
Wow.
So I live in South Central California, so I get to see more of an acute way of how capitalism steals the wealth that we working people create. So it's always a challenge.
Wow, it sounds like you you're going to the front lines of everything. You're in the center of everything.
Yeah, kind of. I'm getting older though, so I better I have to give that to the younger folks.
Fair enough. So would you please tell us the demographics of your area? So you said, what's the district number?
It's 37th district.
Okay, so if you could please tell us what it's like, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's there's three other people running, and in the 37th district, it's the poverty rate. Let's see, I'll take the zip code that I live in. It's really interesting too because I'm running for the office, and I think I'm the only person who lives here. And so the zip code I live in, 90062, the poverty rate is about 16%. In California, total California, it's 12% poverty rate. Here it's 16%. A little bit south of me, it's about 21%.
Oh, wow.
So it's 20 or 27%. Anyway, it's a higher average poverty rate here. And the housing situation, the homeless situation, the houseless housing situation is it's bad and it's getting worse. So we have a more share of that poverty in this district. So things like police brutality are also more occurring. This is mostly black and brown community here. And so we get more of a share of that repression, that police repression. So, of course, that's an issue, police brutality, and also education, quality education that we're kind of denied of. So that's going to be a struggle and making those links to why this is happening. The banks are always the ones that take the money out in the budget. Right before the budget goes, the first part of that pie has to go to the debt's going to the banks, and all the money that's being sent for the police. And we saw this contradiction heightened when COVID occurred, especially here. Mostly, black and brown folks were more likely to die of COVID because of the lack of health care and facilities and things like that. But the other thing is that when we talk about police brutality, Joe Biden was telling people, telling the mayor to don't worry about spending money on COVID, the money that was supposed to be sent from the federal government. He said, well, use that money to hire more police. And every year, they break a record of how many people are being killed. Of course, it's a higher percentage of black and brown people, but every year they break a record in killings by the police. So there's a genocide going on here. But one of the things, I always we talk about that, but one of the main things that this campaign is about is stopping the massacre and the Holocaust and the genocide against the people of Gaza right now. So we're calling for a ceasefire. And every candidate that I challenge to say you're going to call for a ceasefire, they refuse to do it.
Okay.
So they're complicit in this genocide.
Sure. What parties are they?
The incumbent is a Democrat.
Okay.
Then there's a Republican, and there's an independent person. So it's close. But I was really disappointed with the person who's this guy. I guess his name is Juan Ray, and he says he's part of the working class working class party. And I talked to him. I approached him. I said, okay, we're competitors, but I said, we're supposed to be for the working class. And so I said, if you win, that's good. If I win, that's good. We work together, and we get ourselves together and get stronger. And I said, but the main thing that we have to do now is get these politicians to call for a ceasefire and put pressure on Biden to stop these net weapons going for massacres and genocide. And I couldn't get him to say that he would call for a ceasefire. It blew me away. I was so, I said, I know he's a competitor and stuff, but I said, yeah, I told him, look, you could probably get more votes if you ask for a ceasefire, because that's what people want right now. People don't like to see babies getting bombed in Gaza on a daily basis. And I said, you can't get votes, and you can take those votes away from me. Just call for it. He said, no. He didn't want to call for a ceasefire. I had to walk away from him. It's hard to imagine how people could see what's going on, and it's going to continue. And Biden and Anthony Blinken will send more and more weapons to them, and shells, and these 155 millimeter shells that they're using for the artillery tanks. They do so much damage. When I went to Ukraine, and I went to the Donbass region, and I saw the damage that was being done by the Ukrainian military, and they've got a lot of folks in Azov and the Nazi forces working with them as well. But they use these 122 millimeter shells, and they go right through tanks. You can see all the damage. But the ones that they're using, that Israel's being sent, are the 155 millimeter tanks, and they're being used against children waiting in line for food. That happened before the International Court Justice decision on January 26th. The day before, they shot at a grouping of people waiting for food from the United Nations Relief Works Agency that was being. So that's the kind of. It makes me want to cry when I think about this stuff, and how can they not call for a ceasefire? It's just.
Sure.
Mm.
So that person they identify as a socialist, and they don't want to call for a ceasefire?
I don't know if he calls himself a socialist. I think it's called the Working People's Party, or Working Something Party.
Okay.
But I haven't heard him say. He's from someone who cares about the issues of the working class. So I don't know if he is or not. But he refuses to talk. There was a forum that we had I'm also the coordinator of the Harriet Tubman Center for Social Justice. And we had a forum with a South African pastor who's an activist. And, we wanted to talk to him about the International Court Justice decision that was brought by the South African government. And he talked about that, because he's involved in that as well. And someone from the Palestinian, I forgot the name, Palestinian movement. I'll find the name. Someone who works with Al Auda and other Palestinian organizations and things, and he was a guest speaker, and he spoke there as well. And Juan Ray showed up to the meeting, and because I had told him before, I said, if you want to come and say something, you're welcome. That's the way we do it. We try to be united. So he came here, and before the meeting started, I had Ayman, his name is, the Palestinian speaker was there, and I introduced him to him, and I said, he's seen the massacres, he knows what goes on. So, we have to get you to, call for a ceasefire. And I thought that wouldn't be a problem, especially while he's standing next to someone who sees the suffering up close. And he just said, no, I can't do that. So, I don't know if he calls himself a socialist, but I don't know what kind of socialist that is.
Sure. So do you think the fear is because of the influence of AIPAC? Like when we had Aaron on, he had a lot of interesting information about AIPAC, and he was telling how they fund both sides of elections, and they win almost every election. They fund 90%, he said. And then we had another person on the podcast saying that one of the biggest lobbying organizations is AIPAC in the United States. So do you think that's a big part of it, why people are afraid? They don't want to be smeared by them?
Yeah. It's a lot of pressure, it seems, because folks who have always called themselves progressives, you can see that they're just under a lot of pressure. The mayor of L.A. 2 or 3 days ago, the mayor of L.A., Karen Bass, had Biden came here. He went to I think he was close to the South Central community here in L.A. And he was at a restaurant, and she was taking him around and showing him, and the only reason that he would be here is to try to take the heat off of the criticisms for supplying a massacre. And for Karen Bass, who considers herself as someone who's very progressive, maybe even kind of socialist, maybe, for her to go and bring him around, never criticizing him, never calling for a ceasefire, and then promoting him here in the black community, that's complicit. That's being complicit. I'd go so far to say complicit in genocide.
Wow.
Because that's what the international courts justice said. They basically said Israel cannot continue what they said could be genocide. And they said anyone who assists in that genocide is also criminal, is also a part of that genocide. And that's a criminal offense. And so all these folks when you're given weapons, Biden gives weapons and doesn't even ask for Congress. 2 times he didn't even get the permission of Congress, and he sent these weapons anyway. And Congress didn't act like they're fine with it. They passed a bill that was a bill that said you really shouldn't criticize Zionism. That was their priority to support Zionism. And even though it's in its most fascist form under Netanyahu, so there must be a lot of pressure for these former progressive people to be towing the line here. And I guess AIPAC, but it's really, you can tell from the wars, like say for example the war in Afghanistan, the defense industry sent about $2.1 billion to as lobbyists to the politicians. So that effort. So the lobbyist industry is almost like another type of government. These lobbyists, not only AIPAC, but the ones that are basically working for the profits of the defense industry. And during the Afghanistan war, the defense stocks, Lockheed and Boeing, all them, their stocks overperformed by about 60%. They're doing better than the other stocks. So they're making so much money. Robert Gates, the defense secretary, said, the Pentagon is used to, it's a culture of endless money. And that's what they get. And they spend so much money. $824 billion now is the military budget. But it's really double that because they don't talk about the veteran insurance and the military space programs that they have. They don't add that in there, but when you add it in, it's really double that. So it's really $1.6 trillion that's going into this stuff. So they've got lots of money to buy off their puppet politicians in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And that's why I feel like we have to run, because otherwise it's going to be the status quo. And the status quo, especially when you look at Gaza, that just can't be tolerated.
Sounds good. That's what I like to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your strategy for reaching the voters in your area?
Oh, you got to do it on a budget. I'll tell you a funny story. The last time I ran for the Senate in 2022,
okay,
I got 150,000 votes altogether.
That's pretty good.
And Yeah, there was a special election where I got, I don't know, 10 and another 105 in the regular election. But anyway, so I got that many weights. I came in eighth. There were about 27 or 28 people who were running for the Senate then in California. The person who came 10th. I came 8th, and this person came 10th after me. He is a billionaire. He spent $7 million on the campaign.
Oh, my.
and he did what
you beat him.
And I spent less than $4,000 on the campaign. And the way we did it is you can't avoid the billboards. So I'm looking at it right now. Actually, I'm going to get in the car and drive it around. We got a big U-Haul, and we got a huge sign that says vote socialist, vote ceasefire, and it's got my website, John Parker for Congress. And, that's the website, johnparkerforcongress.org. So we got that. We put it on a ramp, coastal ramps, overlooking the highway 101 or 110 or whatever, and it's a big billboard. And sometimes we can park it there, sometimes we can't. And we go out and we have folks that are doing postering and yard signs and doing forums, and that's the way we have to kind of do a budget kind of campaign. And it just seems like people know about the campaign, and I think I might be more well known now than about 3 other candidates. And all we have to do is get to the second. You have to get to second place, and then we can go on to the November thing. And we want to use that opportunity to put pressure and build a movement against genocide there and genocide here.
Okay. So when is that? When is the primary then?
Primaries on March 5th.
It's coming up.
And people were able to vote. Mail voting started February 5th.
Okay.
So the important thing that we had to do was get a statement in the voting guide. So everybody saw that voting guide, and it goes to everybody in the district. And we were the only ones who had a statement in that. Out of the 4 people, we were the only ones who had a statement. It cost a lot of money to do that, but we made sure we got the money to do it. I was like, I'm going to sell my car, whatever I got to do. But that's how they make the voices of the poor non-existent, because they charge so much money to make a statement.
Oh, sure.
But we said we're going to do it anyway. But no one else did. Even the Democratic incumbent didn't have a statement in there. So the visibility in that campaign is very helpful. So we don't know what's going to happen, but who knows?
Sure. So you said March 5th is when the primary is?
Yes.
And then how many people go to the general election? Is it 2, or how many is it?
2. I'm sorry. Say it again.
How many people go to the general election from the primary in California?
Oh, I don't know. I saw something about during the pandemic, 90% of the people went to the used mail ballot. So I'm thinking maybe it's probably less. Who knows? 20%, 10% that will be going to the polls. But that 20% or 10% could make a big difference.
Sure.
I don't know how many. I think it's about close to 800 people in the 37th district, something like that. Okay. And I guess if it's a third of the people that vote, I'm not sure how many people are. You have to look at those numbers, but hopefully they'll be in my favor.
So if you make it in the top 2, you get to go on to the general election?
Yes. We have up until November to raise some more sand and expose these politicians. Okay.
So what can our audience do to support you in this campaign?
Oh, well, we had, we have weekly meetings every Saturday at the Harriet Tubman Center.
Okay.
That's at 5278 West Pico Boulevard. 5278 West Pico Boulevard. And we have meetings at the usually at 1 o'clock on Saturdays. This time on March 2nd, so there's going to be a large demonstration. I believe it's at City Hall at 1 p.m. So we're going to be gathering around 11 to 1. We're going to gather there to and then go out and do some outreach and support that most important demonstration. But folks can give us a call too.
Okay.
If we do make it to the thing, we're hoping folks can come and help. The more posters we can get up, the more flyers we can get out, the better the endorsements that we can get from the unions is great. We have a great endorsement from Union del Barrio. Let me see, my phone number.
Okay.
323-306-6240.
All right. So they can call you if they want to assist.
Oh, yeah. That'd be
Perfect.
fantastic.
Perfect. John, we thank you for coming on the podcast today and talking about your campaign. It sounds like you got a lot of important causes that you're supporting.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for making it more visible. The podcast.
Sure thing. That's why we're here.
I gotta learn.
We wish you all the best in your campaign and everything else you do in life.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay. Thanks. You too.
Bye.
Bye.